So I have been living in Mallorca now since 2005, and while there are just so many brilliant things about living here on the island, there are also some things as well that aren't so fantastic. So if you are thinking about moving to the island, there are a few issues that I just want to make you aware of. Now, I've saved my pet hate for right at the end of this video, so make sure you go ahead and check that out. I also have an article on my website on MallorcaUnderTheSun.com, so make sure you check that out too. It has more information. But for now, let's check out the top 10 things that I don't particularly like about living here on the island. Now, I'm going to state the obvious here that Mallorca is really a holiday island. It's completely geared towards tourism, and you're going to find very, very different scenes over here during the summer months than you would do in the winter. Now, this could be a problem for many people who come over here to live. They might not quite expect to see many of their favourite holiday resorts just looking so empty. But these popular holiday resorts literally turn into ghost towns over the winter months. And as you can see behind me, you can see a very, very empty Son Matias beach. Yes, there are a few people in the water, there are a few people out walking, but for some people this isn't really what they signed up for when they come over here to live in Mallorca. That said though, and I have to say, as a resident here, I absolutely love these months. I love being able to walk along long empty beaches, and I love being able to enjoy these resorts on a very, very different level than you ever would do during the summer too. And this is exactly what I mean. Now, normally during the summer months you see the ferries coming in to take tourists out on sightseeing trips. Now I see a family having their lunch by the harbour, which is actually a really cool thing to do. But you can see all the businesses here are closed up. So we've got the diving centre here, got some really popular bars that of course you're going to know and love. I'm just outside the Scotsman here, that's shut up for the season too. And all the other bars just along this pier too. But we're going to head on down towards Son Matias Beach, and I'm going to keep telling you about the things that I'm not so keen on about living here in Mallorca. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is that everything has got so expensive here on the island, whether you're eating out or whether you're shopping in the supermarket. Now, I'm going to have more information coming out about this as we go on through the month, but really I guess an increase in the price of living is something that's been experienced worldwide and globally as well. And I've just got back from the UK and was absolutely horrified to see the cost of food and the cost of living as well in the UK. So I guess that's something that has happened across the board. But Mallorca is no longer a really cheap place to live. So I'm going to ask you to hit that subscribe button if you are thinking of coming to move out here to Mallorca, because coming up later on this month I have my first sponsored video. I'm doing it in partnership with a legal firm here in Palma who can actually help you move out here if you're from one of these third countries, so from the UK or the USA, and we're going to go through all the options of how you can move over here. So make sure you turn on that notifications bell to make sure you do not miss out on that video. Okay, so let's head on onto Son Matias Beach. Okay, so another downside to living here is point number 3, and that's working freelance here on the island. Now, it's not just working freelance, it's actually about having a career, and I did actually mention this in my pros and cons of living in Mallorca video, which I made, I think it's a couple of years ago now, but it still stands, but it has changed slightly. Now, if you are prepared to go freelance working out here, I have to say it's not an easy ride. It's very, very difficult because you do have very, very high costs to pay every month with social security and also with tax, regardless of how much you earn too, and regardless also whether you are ill or not, you still have to pay that kind of money. Also, looking back at my old video as well, having a career here on the island is also very, very difficult. Bear in mind that you are up against many islanders here, you're up against Mallorquin businesses, so maybe it's going to be harder to get yourself promoted through these big corporate companies. Some people have made it, some people have made a success of it, but just to let you know, it can be very, very difficult. But that said though, since the pandemic, working life has changed over here in Mallorca, and it of course has become more of a trend now to work from home, so you're no longer limited to just finding work on the island. Now, I'm personally registered with other companies in the UK. I can actually work for companies in the UK and overseas. With the whole work from home culture as well, you can easily pick up freelance work and you're no longer dependent on companies here on the island to pay your wages. Okay, we're just taking a very quick break here. I can see someone just coming out of the water. I've got to say, this may be about things I hate about living in Mallorca, but walking along this beach on a gorgeous January day isn't one of them. Okay, so point number 4, we're going to talk about property and how incredibly difficult it is to find somewhere to live here on the island, because demand really is outstripping supply. Now, in recent years, and I'm sure this has been the case for many places around the world as well, it's not just in Mallorca, but the house prices have really shot up here, whether you're finding somewhere to rent or whether you're finding somewhere to buy. Now, I think measures are going to be put in place by the government in that they're going to try and restrict sales to overseas investors to actually allow people to even afford to buy a property here or even afford to find somewhere to rent. But just be warned, if you are looking to come out here, that finding an available property is going to be tricky. It is going to be expensive too. Okay, so point number 5 is a very hot topic here in Mallorca, and it's all about the education. Now, many families who do move out here do find that the public education isn't quite as international as they may have thought, because the public schools do teach primarily in Catalan. Now, those seeking a more of an international education to be able to learn in English and Spanish and Catalan and German and French are more suited maybe to getting a place in an international school. Now, these international schools, places, have really become hard to come by in the past few years. In fact, when my daughter was small, it was very, very easy to get a place in an international school. Now it's not so easy. So my recommendation here, and this is just a top tip, if you're thinking of moving to the island, is to get your child's name down on one of these waiting lists as soon as you know that you're going to move here, because you could be in for a long wait in order to get a place. But are international schools any better than local schools? Well, that's completely a subjective question. It's down to personal choice. I've known families who've gone through the public system and their children have gone on to live very, very successful and happy lives, and they've been completely multilingual. Same goes as well for those at international schools as well. They've been able to go to university, live all over the world. So once again, whatever decision you make about your child's education, you know that they're going to grow up in a very enriching environment, a very multinational environment as well, and it's going to be just very, very different to probably the kind of education that you're experiencing back home at the moment. Okay, so my next point about living here in Mallorca is about friendships that you have on the island. Now, I have covered this in more detail in my book called Living in Mallorca Under the Sun, which you can now buy on Amazon, and I shall leave a link to that in the description text below this video. But yeah, if you're coming over here to live, just be aware that there's a constant recycling of friends. They come into the island, they leave the island, they may come back and they may go again, but it's very, very hard to have a solid group of friends who just never leave. It's something that happens every few years. You get this recycling effect. You become really good friends with families or with people, and then they're off and you never see them again. So once again, that's just something to bear in mind if you come to live here on the island. Okay, so point number 7, and that is all about driving here in Mallorca. Now, it does seem a little bit strange to be talking about driving when I'm walking along this very long empty beach quite peacefully, but this is really one of the number 1 things that I absolutely hate about living here. Now, it can be very chaotic on the roads. You can be taking your life into your own hands when you jump into a car. You do get used to it, I have to say. You do get used to driving here, but it's not really one of my favourite things to do. Also, parking can be very, very difficult in the city as well. If you're going into Palma, sometimes it's very, very hard to find a parking place too. But that said, in 2023, going on buses and trains is now going to be absolutely free for all island residents. Now, what country could possibly promise this and deliver as well? I mean, this is an incredible development for anyone living here in Mallorca. We just need to get our intermodal cards or our Palma citizen card, but we are going to be able to enjoy free transport throughout the year here in Mallorca, which is just fantastic news. It means that I can now leave my car at home if I want to. I can jump onto any bus that I like as well and get about the island. So in theory, the whole idea of travelling around on public transport for absolutely free is just fantastic for everybody living here. But what's the reality going to be like in the summer? Now, we're going to see very different scenes here in just a few months when tourists start to arrive in the resorts. We're going to see the bus stops getting very, very busy, and it's not going to be so easy to get around, which is one of the things that I don't necessarily like very much about living here in Mallorca. Now, in the summer months, those bus timetables do go to pot slightly. Everything goes out the window because with the increase of tourism here on the islands, we do find that many buses do pass by some of these bus stops completely full. And we heard reports last summer of tourists having to wait for absolutely ages to get a bus. So it'll be really great if we hear there's going to be even more supply this summer. Let's watch this space on that one, and hopefully I'll have some good news to report as we go on in through the season. And this busyness also extends not just to buses and the likelihood of continuing to have packed buses over the summer, but also just life in general and it being packed everywhere on the island during the summer. And that can be just a pain for people living here. It's often hard to find a table in a really popular restaurant. You have to book ages in advance. The beaches are packed. Everything gets really, really busy. And after you've been here for a few years, some people just do not like the summer months on the island. But at the same time, this is still a great opportunity if you're living here to just get off it. Go to Northern Europe, go to summer in the UK or in Sweden, where you're going to really have a fantastic time. It's going to be a lot cooler up north, and this is a great time to leave the tourists to enjoy the really high temperatures in Mallorca while you also take a break as well. Okay, so we're just coming to the end of Son Matias Beach here, so I'm going to tell you about the main thing that I absolutely hate about living here in Mallorca. And that is about family. Now, I'm not saying I hate my family, quite the opposite, because if you do make the decision to come over here to live in Mallorca, then just be aware that you are going to be cutting yourself off from your family unless you are coming to join them here on the island, or they will come and join you in the future. Now, as we all know, that the cost of low-cost flights over the years has shot up considerably. They're no longer as cheap as they used to be, so being able to actually go and see your family has become more expensive than ever. And particularly if you're working out here as well, just be aware too that you're going to have a limited amount of holiday if you are working for a company, so that's going to make catching up with your family even harder. That said though, this is a great place to live because you will soon become the most popular person in your family, because everyone will want to come out and see you, everyone will want to come out and visit you as well. And as I've mentioned in my book as well, it's so easy to stay in touch with people living out here because, well, everyone comes on holiday to Mallorca eventually, and it's really, really nice that you get to see so many people that you haven't seen for absolutely years living here. Okay, so if you're thinking of moving to Mallorca, then this year may be the year for you to make your dreams come true. If you want to find out more about the pros and cons of living on the islands, then do check out this video appearing here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because my video all about moving to Mallorca will be coming out very soon on my channel. Wishing you all the very best of luck and wishing you all a very happy new year. Goodbye for now.